Bob Lazar versus Joe Rogan. This was a meeting of the minds that just happened on JRE. For those of you who don't know, Bob Lazar is an American who, since 1989, has claimed to have been part of a classified U.S. government project concerned with the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology. Apparently, he worked at Area 51, and his story has been scrutinized ever since. Is he true and straight, or is he fake and gay? Let's find out.
One of the things that comes up is, do you think Bob Lazar is telling the truth? And I say, look, I don't know. There's no way I could know, but he doesn't seem like he's lying. I've been around a lot of liars.
Look, I'm the biggest skeptic of all. Although if you look at Wikipedia, it says I'm a conspiracy theorist or something.
Yeah, I think it says I'm a far-right podcaster.
Yeah, all right. So. I mean, yeah, it's great.
It's 2026. We need footage, Bob. That's right. Where is the 4K Dolby Digital surround sound proof of aliens?
Welcome.
I need it, and I need it now. Because I have been psyoped for my entire life.
Welcome.
That aliens are real. Philion, have you seen the videos? Yeah, I have. And they're not convincing. Yeah, but what about the Navy pilots? They testified in Congress. Do you think I'm retarded? In fact, I believe, I'll take it one step further. This is a game by the CIA to see what they can get away with. Sprinkle a little disinformation here, a little bit there. Yo, they really buying this shit. We are getting astroturfed by our own government. And then there's bad actors, of course, too. Look over here, not over there. Because wouldn't that be fascinating, right? Wouldn't that dwarf every other problem in the world? Extraterrestrial life, alien technology. Because we will quarrel with each other and kill each other and fight each other until there is alien life.
Welcome.
Every single nation on this planet will be in forever a state of war until we have another species.
Welcome.
To hate and to colonize.
But, shit, I lost my train of thought now.
Because with Claude, I mean, they think that the Claude AI, the engineers, we think it's sentient already. It just doesn't have a physical body to move around.
Look, AI is going to kill us. Everybody agrees with that. There's no question.
I don't think it's going to kill us. You know what I think it's going to do? I think it's going to prevent us from breeding.
I want aliens to be real, so I just have another thing to fuck.
And it's going to let us die off.
I don't think that's going to kill us,
but
Joe.
I think we're going to...
So Bob Lazar just dropped a new documentary and he went on JRE to promote it. If you don't know who Lazar is...
AI isn't killing me, no shot. Have you seen me on Arc Raiders? Get the fuck out of here. So true. I am smoking every clanker that tries to step up to your boy.
He's the guy who claims he worked on reverse engineering alien spacecraft at a secret facility about 15 miles south of Area 51 back in 1988 and 89. He says he was hired as a physicist to figure out how the propulsion system worked on an aircraft that...
You know what's so funny to me too? It's always the stereotypical UFOs and aliens. You would think we would have moved on from this flying saucer bullshit
the US government had in its possession, one that was built by aliens. Whether or not you believe his story, the man has been saying the exact same thing for almost 40 years, and over time a bunch of things he said have supposedly been independently verified. That is why Joe Rogan is such a big fan of his. Stuff that people called bullshit on in the late 80s apparently turned out to be real. And so to promote the new documentary, Lazar went back on JRE for the first time since his original appearance way back in 2019.
Hey, Joe.
Great to see you again, Bob.
Same here. Long time.
Luigi.
Joe.
You are still to this date the most watched ever podcast we have ever done that's on YouTube.
That's just
66 million views. That is how many people want to believe in this.
unreal. It's unreal.
It is unreal because it shows you how many people are just absolutely fascinated by the story.
That episode has over 66 million views, Rogan's most watched episode ever. And
yeah, they have technology to traverse space-time, but they crashed in buttfuck New Mexico. Yeah.
That 2019 interview with Bob Lazar was a massive moment. It was non-political, it was about alien technology and government secrecy, and this one guy's unverifiable story that had captivated people for 3 decades.
Now, What would he have to gain from this? A fucking career?
Welcome.
If I worked at Area 51, I am grifting until the day I die. You cannot disprove my claims.
And Rogan's curiosity was so raw and so sincere back then. It was before the massive Spotify deals that changed everything, before the political endorsements, the pandemic, everything that turned his brain into a full-time culture war blender. And that episode hits different now in hindsight because it came out in June 2019, just months before everything changed. COVID was around the corner, the Spotify deal was being negotiated behind the scenes. It really was the last gasp of old Rogan, the guy who asked questions because he wanted to know the answers, not because he wanted a launching pad for his own dogshit takes. If you're a Patreon member, you'll know I recently covered the biggest moments in podcast cringe history, and without sharing too much, the Spotify deal was right up there as one of the defining inflection points in Rogan's trajectory. It's when the show stopped being a curiosity-driven conversation and started becoming a platform with an agenda. Whether that agenda was conscious or not is a different...
If somebody offers me over $100 million to stream on their platform, I'm taking it. I am never looking at a comment again. What are we talking about here? I am going to let that money change me. I am going to let greed corrupt me.
Discussion, but the shift was undeniable. And when you go back and listen to how Rogan sounded in 2019 versus how he sounds now, it's actually quite jarring.
When did things get weird? When did you realize? Like, at what point in time did you say, hey, this is not normal work? Like, this doesn't even seem like...
What if it's gooning on Twitch for the money? If Twitch offered me $100 million, I would get breast implants and sit in a plastic pool for 23 hours a day so that third worlders can jerk off to me. I do not care.
It's from this planet.
It was in the demonstration of the reactor working where it caught my attention to where this is technology that doesn't even exist. So, I mean, that was the first time I knew that this is really something different.
What was it? What was it? What was it about this reactor that made you think that it didn't exist technologically?
Well, it was I actually have to back up because there were some briefings that I read it before that.
So when you were reading that, before you actually saw the reactor, what were your thoughts on what they were...
The only reactor that's important is the one on kick.com/Philion. And right now we're sitting on the front page of that platform because we have motion on a Monday in a soy ocean.
Describing. If you knew that something like that didn't exist, and they're describing it in the briefings, what did you think you were going to see?
I didn't know at the time. I mean, I was reading, I thought, is this some kind of test?
See if you're crazy?
Well, not to see if I'm crazy,
What is your life like from that moment on? Is that where everything changes? Because I would imagine the moment you actually make contact with something that's extraterrestrial, whether it's an object or a being, something where you can actually absolutely be certain it's not from here.
You guys know about the dark forest theory? If not, that's okay. I'll break it down for you. If we are not alone in the universe, you could think of it as a dark forest. If we have the ability to intergalactically travel and reach out to other forms of life, you would be inviting predators to colonize your ass. Therefore, it is in your best interest to stay quiet, because the only ones that are going to make noise in a dark forest is a predator, not prey. Much to think about.
Your whole paradigm, the whole world you live in, is now a different place.
Well, this is the only time it became exciting.
Welcome.
The rest of the time, it was really an ominous feeling being at work. But at that time, it was exciting.
You can hear it in his voice. Rogan's pulling information out of Lazar. He's leaning in, following the thread and asking the next logical question based on what he just heard. As the little guy himself would say, he was locked in. That's a guy who spent hours thinking about this story before he sat down to talk to...
Owls are birds of prey, though, and make hella noise in dark forests. Well, that's where you're fundamentally incorrect. Because birds of prey are also known as predator birds, meaning they chase prey because they are the predators. so that they can make the noise because nobody is going to eat them. They are the apex. Owls also fly silently. It's literally what they're known for. Sheesh.
Lazar, the genuine curiosity was definitely there to see. And the questions aren't generic, they're specific and sequenced. He's building a picture for the audience by getting Lazar to walk them through the experience step by step. He was also a lot sharper and more articulate. Listen to how he framed that question about making contact with something extraterrestrial and your whole paradigm shifting. That's a considered thought delivered cleanly in one breath. 2026 Rogan doesn't talk like that anymore. He talks in circles and tangents and half-finished sentences that trail off into whatever he saw on Twitter that morning. He was also willing to push back in 2019 when Jeremy started floating the idea that maybe a hyper-intelligence created humans as workers. Rogan's first instinct wasn't to nod along and riff on it for 20 minutes. He actually made complete sense and didn't waffle on, twisting his words and using it as a segue into trans people using bathrooms or furries using kitty litter in
Those are huge problems.
California schools.
What would you do if you were a hyper intelligence, right? Would you do the work yourself, or would you create some cool things called like humans to do it for you? Would you create things that are cybernetic organisms to come in with machines and do it for you? You'd probably create workers, right?
Well, that's a vast conspiracy theory.
I'm not talking about conspiracy.
But it is a kind of a conspiracy,
I'm
right?
asking you.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that.
Humans derive fulfillment from suffering. So if there were to be a super humanoid, artificial intelligence, God-conscious being, and they created humans to enjoy suffering, that is the most masochistically masculine thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Not only are these lesser beings going to work, but they're going to like it.
Welcome.
Give me harder battles.
I mean, you could look at it that way, but that is the way a conspiracy theorist would look at it. The way I would look at it is like there's obviously a progression going on, a biological progression. There's some sort of an integration with technology. There's some sort of imperative, this need for technological innovation, because so many people work so hard to get new things. And like, God, that seems so illogical and preposterous, and it makes people unhappy, and depression's on the rise, but nobody seems to be able to stop it. Like, why is that? Well, maybe it's because we are the electronic caterpillars that give birth to the butterfly.
He hears something that sounds conspiratorial, and his immediate reaction is to label it. Sure, he walks it back a little bit, but the instinct was there, right? The filter was still functioning.
I thought I was supposed to be learning about aliens in Area 51. So far, Bob Lazar has said nothing.
Remember the infamous bullshit detector Joe developed after having growing up without a dad? But then he does something that would be completely foreign to 2026 Joe. He takes the idea and redirects it into something more grounded. He talks about biological progression, technological integration, the philosophical question of why humans are so obsessed with making things better. By the way, all of that human worker bullshit is based on that Anunnaki theory that Billy Carson talked about on JRE, but that's a whole other story. If you want the background on all of that, I did a video covering the Billy Carson interview on JRE, and then there was the whole crash out after the Wes Huff debate, which I also covered, so you can check out both of those videos right here on YouTube. But for now, I want to focus on the contrast between 2019 Rogan and the guy who showed up to interview the same guest 7 years later. Because what happened in this new episode is a masterclass in how much one person can change when they get ridiculously rich and shack up with the elites. In 2019, Rogan interviewed Bob Lazar. He pulled information out of him, challenged ideas that drifted too far, and helped the man tell his story. In 2026, he used Bob Lazar as a springboard for his own tangents about ADHD, vaccines, AI sentience, the feminization of men, and the geopolitics of Iran.
I mean, if I pulled 66 million views off the first episode, getting into the nitty-gritty of alien life forms, I would probably just have a fun episode with him next.
The guest became a prop for Rogan's monologues. Let me show you exactly what I mean.
We are territorial primates, and that makes sense that that's what we do. The thing that always fascinates me about particularly the Greys, they seem to be genderless, and they seem to have no muscle at all. They seem to have enormous heads.
The what?
And the stories, at least, the anecdotal accounts of people having communication with these creatures is that they communicate in some way telepathically.
Yeah.
Like all the things that are attached to being a human being, ego, lust, greed, desire to conquer, desire to control resources, all those things are territorial primate instincts. And one of the conversations I had yesterday with my friend Theo, we were talking about like what's happening to people's bodies. We're consuming microplastics and
There's seed oils in my skin. There's microplastics in my balls.
phthalates and all these things that are reducing
Well, Joe just got his blood filtered. He just got the Brian Johnson, Paul Saladino oil change. He shouldn't have any microplastics in his balls anymore.
reproductive system, our testosterone's dropping.
Right.
How many
Pretty sure that's a lie. Spiritually, our testosterone is dropping.
more people are autistic now than were before? It's 1 out of 12 boys in California now. It used to be 1 out of 10,000 just a few decades ago. Like we're moving into this very weird direction without us
Wait,
recognizing
let
it.
me stop you there. It's 1 out of how many?
1 out of 12 boys in California are diagnosed autistic now.
But do you think that might be the way they're diagnosed?
No.
Really? No?
So Rogan's interviewing the guy who supposedly
That kind of checks out, though. Like, I don't know if you guys have interacted with other people in real life. Scary thing to do. 1 out of 12 kind of checks out.
worked on alien spacecraft inside a mountain in the Nevada desert, one of the most fascinating and controversial claims in modern history, and somehow they ended up talking about microplastics shrinking people's taints and autism rates in California. Now look, tangents happen on JRE, that's part of the format and it's always been like that, but in 2019 the tangents served the conversation. Rogan would go off on a riff about technology or evolution or whatever.
I hate when people gaslight me to think that I'm autistic. Nah, okay. I'm a little quirky, but I am the most neurotypical person on the planet. You cannot get a better baseline of high-achieving human performance than Philion's domicile.
And then he'd bring it back to Lazar's
I am the default true Adam.
story. It was a conversation with detours. What you're seeing in 2026 is a monologue with a guest present. And the wildest part of this whole segment isn't even the tangent itself. It's that Bob Lazar, the alien conspiracy guy, the man who claims he handled extraterrestrial technology in a secret government facility, is the
I hate blanket autism. Like, if you have any special interest, these retards will say you're on the spectrum. Yeah, my interests are not special. They really just align with being ripped and rich, which makes me rare.
one trying to inject some rationality into the conversation. But do you think that might be the way they're diagnosed? I mean, that's clearly what's going on here, right? But 2026 Rogan just shuts it down with a flat out no. The sheer confidence is staggering when you think about it. This is a man with zero medical training, zero scientific education, who has never
That's all going away.
stepped foot in the research lab, dismissing diagnostic methodology with the certainty of someone who spent their entire
If creating something out of nothing is autistic, then yeah, full-blown guilty.
career studying developmental disorders, and his evidence, buried studies that he conveniently can't produce, and the fact that he personally knows people with autistic kids. That's it. That's the whole basis. Rogan's like the vibe coding tech bro of podcasting. He knows a bunch of friends with kids that are nonverbal now, but he didn't when he was younger. I mean, you know, when his friends didn't have kids.
No, I think it's exposure. I think it's exposure to chemicals, vaccines, environmental toxins.
You think that too?
I think that.
It's not just me. There's tons of studies.
That would make sense. Like, that's not a crazy thought. I understand why people say that Joe Rogan's crazy. That logically checks out.
In a lot of buried studies, too.
Okay, I mean, if that's
Yeah.
accurate, that's frightening.
I know so many people that have nonverbal autistic kids, where I didn't know anybody that had nonverbal.
Have you seen India? Do you see their holy river, the Ganges, that's biologically dead? Now, do you see the children that they produce? You're going to tell me that's not correlated?
autistic kids when I was younger.
Well, you know, I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, there were no kids with ADHD. Kids that were like that were just assholes. Mm-hmm. You know.
I think that's still the case. I don't think ADHD is a real diagnosis. I think it.
Yeah, I took a ADHD test on stream, and I lasted about 3 questions because I know that I'm not ADHD, but that would reinforce the idea that I am.
Attention deficit disorder.
I'm cracked, dialed, locked in. So they have to come up with these words. My brain is functioning on a level in that it's too powerful for its own good. It's not my fault you're not able to stimulate me. How about you get smarter? How about you match my freak?
It's a real excuse to give people medication.
And of course, it wouldn't be a 2026 Rogan monologue without a detour into ADHD, because apparently that's not real either.
I think ADHD is essentially a superpower. What ADHD is allows you to concentrate on things that you really enjoy, but you cannot concentrate on things you don't enjoy.
Okay.
I think I have it. And I think I'm very fortunate that I'm not diagnosed and medicated.
True.
Or wasn't, or was born in the right time when they weren't doing that
I used to be 2 Philions, now I'm 1.
much.
No, I'll
ADHD, absolutely dialed human disciplinarian. So true.
stop you there and say I agree that that's a superpower too.
So it turns out that ADHD is just one of Rogan's many superpowers, along with his ability to concentrate on things that interest him for 12 to 14 hours with no sleep and no food. Just water and coffee and he's locked in.
That's all you need.
Chuck on a nappy with his little legs dangling from the chair and off he goes. Which raises a pretty obvious question. If Slow Joe has this superpower to lock in and obsess over things for hours on end, why does he consistently have the most surface level understanding of almost everything he talks about? You'd think a guy who can supposedly focus with superhuman intensity would maybe, I don't know, spend some of that laser focus actually reading the medical literature on the conditions he's dismissing as fake on the world's 4th biggest podcast.
Nah. If I'm Joe Rogan, I'm not changing a single thing about me. I am running my show until the wheels fall off, and I will refuse to change.
But that would require doing research that might challenge his worldview, and we can't have that, right? Much easier to just self-diagnose on air and use your own experience as proof that an entire field of medicine is wrong.
I'd rather be a billionaire and think I'm right than be broke and told I'm wrong.
He doesn't need ADHD medication, so clearly nobody does. That's some flawless logic right there. All right, Joe, how about you get the Epstein files out and lock in for 12 to 14 hours? See what you come up with there.
Because it's very unusual. I can,
Yeah.
if I find a thing that I like, I can lock in and concentrate on it for 12, 14 hours.
That's not ADHD. That's just being normal. Like that. What are we? You're supposed to be able to focus. It's just that our standards are so low in this world. It has never been easier to stand out and mog.
No sleep, no food. All I need is like water or coffee, and I'm locked in. I think with ADHD is you're taking kids, you're putting them in a completely unnatural environment. You're making them sit down. They don't want to sit down. They're very active and energetic. You're making them study things by very unenthusiastic teachers. They don't want to pay attention. They're fucking off in class because they're completely bored. And then you're saying, that kid's got a problem. We have to diagnose.
His point is that he can't focus on stuff he's not interested in. Well, that's normal. It would be anti-human to be able to focus on things that bore you to death. You might as well. That is what AI is trying to replace in some regards. You shouldn't have to be able to focus on shit that sucks.
Them. And then what do you give them? You give them Adderall. And all of a sudden the kid's locked in because they're on fucking speed. Give that kid a video game. Watch him play it for fucking 10 hours with no food. Because that's what happens. Because that's something that they're actually engaged with. It's not that they can't be focused on anything. They just don't focus on things they enjoy. And we want to turn people into nice little factory workers. Right. And the only way to do that is you got to get a kid to comply. You got to get a kid to pay attention, follow the rules.
We're on the same channel. It's really great.
The thing that's so revealing about Rogan's entire ADHD rant is that it's not really about ADHD at all. When you strip it back, the whole thing is about compliance and control. The government wants to turn kids into nice little factory workers.
That's true.
Big Pharma wants to drug them into submission.
That's also true.
The school system is designed to crush individuality.
Yup.
It all fits neatly into the political and cultural framework that Rogan
That's not even political. That's just facts. No lies were told.
Views everything through. Every single issue, no matter how specific or nuanced or far outside his expertise, gets filtered through the same conspiratorial lens of institutional corruption and population control. And the crazy thing is, he used to know better. Compare everything you just heard to...
I'm still waiting for the gotcha moment in this video of Rogan being exposed. No, he's just being exposed for being a real one. A real-ass motherfucker.
2019 Rogan, the guy who sat in the same chair and said this.
But what is that experience like, seeing your birth certificate?
Dude, I was a different person in 2019. When you stand in a river years later, is it even the same river? No shot.
Certificate erased, seeing your employment
Well, it's
history.
frightening. It's absolutely
But
frightening.
it's also the fuel that the debunkers use, the so-called air quote skeptics.
I have been calloused by years of propaganda and retardation to turn me into a academic weapon.
I don't like the term skeptics. I'm going to say this publicly because I really have only said this privately.
Dude, I received a massive patch update. Now I'm Philion Prime.
It's a sloppy, lazy way to look at things, to just be a skeptic.
Look,
Just-
at
I want
this
people to
point-
be objective. You should look at things and look at things
Everyone was nerfed in 2020, but I was buffed.
from a hardline science perspective. You should
Absolutely.
be objective. But the idea of skeptics, the problem with that is you're always looking for things to be bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous.
I want people to be objective, look at things from a hardline
If you're still the same person you were in 2019, you have zero emotion. So true.
science perspective.
Oh my god, I miss the old Philion.
Problem with skeptics is you're always looking for things to be bullshit, and I think that's dangerous. I mean, come on, buddy. That is 2019 Rogan describing almost word for word exactly what 2026 Rogan has become, regardless of who's sitting across from him or what they actually came on the show to talk about. Bob Lazar flew to Austin to promote a documentary about alien spacecraft that took 5.5 years to make, and he spent a chunk of the interview being used as a sounding board for Rogan's theories about vaccines and ADHD and the fucking feminization of men through microplastics. The guest doesn't matter. He's just a warm body for Rogan to bounce his ideas off. But when it got to Iran, that's when things got real interesting, because Lazar actually pushed back. He didn't fold like most of Joe's guests.
Dude, this guy is potentially lying about aliens being real for the past 40 years. Why am I supposed to trust him?
From what George has told me, Jacques Vallée and some, other really credible researchers have said that these are people either from another dimension or another time.
Especially in a sector that demands realism and objective truth, science. I should be able to smell aliens. I should be able to see aliens. I should be able to hear aliens.
Or maybe they're us from the future.
Right.
Just coming back to interact with us in some way.
Make sure we don't fuck everything up irreparably.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like they're doing a good job.
Maybe that actually has to take place.
I mean,
in order
holy
to
cow!
Disrupt.
Look at the way things are going right now.
Right,
Holy cow!
Exactly.
Yeah. Things are off, totally off the rails.
Dude, he's so wholesome, Chungus.
But maybe that's part of the plan. Maybe part of it is like it has to get so far sideways that we realize how fucked up everything is that we start making meaningful changes and implement AI as government. Is it as dangerous as a global Islamic caliphate? No, it's not Iran.
Iran's not getting nukes. I mean,
okay, but what if
they never mind.
Well, wow. Gee golly.
Joe Rogan's going to hit him with the goy beam. He's going to straight alpha brain his ass. He's going to throw a kettlebell at his forehead. He better shape up.
I don't want to get into political stuff.
No, but you could. You could. Like, if you gave Iran the technology to get nukes, they would take
everyone
it.
has, any physicist has the technology to get nukes. I mean, if I was Iran, I would enrich to 80 or 90% because that's where you can make a weapon. And
Have I ever looked into the technological advancement spike after the UFO landing in Roswell? No, I haven't. Because I don't believe in aliens. I just think it's a psyop.
And stop there.
Right,
I
it's
mean,
not like they would be the only people with
Yeah.
the weapon. Pakistan,
but
India, North Korea.
But that doesn't make you have a weapon. It just gives you a shortcut to it. And being able to deliver a weapon, to 4,000 miles away good luck with that.
Right, but they're in communication with China, who has that. They're in communication
Well,
with
then
Russia,
they don't
who
need
has
to.
that.
They don't need to enrich uranium or do anything. They just can you give me a missile and
Right, but wouldn't they rather make their own? But
No.
but it's not even the point.
rather make their own? Why would you do that? Would you rather make your own car or just somebody give it to you?
Because you'd want to be self-sufficient. You'd want to have your own
You can
production
always
where
do
you don't
that.
have to rely on someone.
No, you can always do that. You can always do that.
Okay.
I don't think they were ever gonna absolutely make a weapon now
Right.
because we're
Guys, Iran is on the brink of nuclear Armageddon. We need to send in the bunker buster bombs.
kicking their ass. As everyone has learned, I guess you have to have
Guys, Iran is this close.
nuclear weapons now. This is a really bad situation.
Oh, it's a horrible situation.
Yeah.
The situation taking place is because human beings suck. Right? We suck in how we interact with each other.
Yeah,
we
I
suck.
know.
We suck because we're territorial primates with weapons of mass destruction.
Can't we just all get along?
Right. Well,
yeah, right.
what is the way to stop that from ever happening? Well, one, you let a catastrophe unfold, and then you offer a solution to make sure these catastrophes never
This guy's intellectually dishonest. Confirmed aliens are a psyop. He's the guy that helps sell the fake.
unfold again.
All right, let's just break that down for a moment. Rogan throws out Iran getting nukes as this big, scary rhetorical device. It's not a well thought
I just haven't been convinced. There is nothing that has been compelling presented to me. And we run a tight ship here at Third Eye Global. I mean, I've looked at every memo, every document. It seems to be fake and gay.
out position. It's just a talking point, right? And Lazar just calmly goes, Iran's not getting nukes. And you can hear Rogan's brain short circuit in real time. So Lazar says, never mind, I don't want to get into political stuff. But Rogan eggs him on because that's what he's really interested in these days. So Lazar explains why making a weapon isn't as simple as enriching uranium. There's the delivery system, there's the engineering challenge of sending a warhead 4,000 miles, there's the geopolitical reality of who already has what, and Rogan keeps trying to climb back on top with his talking points about self-sufficiency and China and Lazar.
Aliens are pagan gods for atheists. There's something for someone. They're not for me.
Just keeps calmly swatting them away like it's nothing. And
Have I seen the image that shows alien UFO sightings mapped out across the globe? Almost all the sightings are in the U.S. I mean, if I were an alien, I would only visit the U.S. too. Let's be honest here. But that is fascinating. Yeah, you don't really hear about alien contact from other countries.
Lazar didn't necessarily seem like he was trying to embarrass Slojo. He's just correcting bad logic the way you'd correct a child saying dumb shit at the dinner table. It's so rare to see a JRE guest push back like this so casually and refuse to back down. And the thing is, as clumsy as Rogan's geopolitical takes were, this actually ended up being a pretty decent exchange because underneath it all, Lazar was low-key calling out the current administration and the entire mess that the Iran conflict has become. The reasons for starting it, the destruction, the fact that it's accomplished nothing except convincing every other country on Earth that they need nuclear weapons to avoid the same fate. Now, I'm not sure how clued in Lazar is to Rogan's involvement in endorsing the people responsible for all of this, so maybe he was calling out the hypocrisy too, but obviously I'm speculating there. What I'm not speculating about, though, is Rogan's grand thesis at the end of this whole mess, which is that maybe we just need to let civilization collapse so we can rebuild with AI running the government, which, in his mind, is apparently less scary than Iran having a nuclear weapon. So let me just get this straight. In the space of about 10 minutes, Rogan has argued that aliens or time travelers are here to save us from ourselves, but maybe they should just let us nuke each other so we learn our lesson, and then we can hand control over to an artificial intelligence
None of this matters if you get rich and jacked.
that will govern more rationally than humans.
Oh, did you hear the news, Philion? Aliens are real? No, sorry, I didn't. I was jet skiing in a high-trust society. Damn, dude, that's crazy. You see the new Bob Lazar? No, sorry, dude. I was in the Swiss Alps with the boys.
But also, AI is going to kill us, but also we should let it run the government. Bro, what the actual fuck are you
Did you know that the AI singularity is coming? No, dude. I was with my friends and family, chilling in Agartha.
talking about anymore? How many competing theories can you fit into your alien-shaped head and jumble them up before spitting them out as a single coherent thought? But, he's just a meathead comedian asking questions. It's all just a conversation about stuff he's interested in, so whatevs. So then, let's just take a second to appreciate how far the turns have tabled from 2019 to now. In 2019, Rogan asked Bob Lazar, when did things get weird? And then he shut the fuck up and listened to the answer. He followed up with specific questions, he challenged ideas that drifted into conspiracy territory, and he helped a man tell his story to 66 million people. It was the most watched JRE episode in history because Rogan knew how to get out of the way.
Yeah, but 7 years later, there's still no proof of aliens. So if I'm Joe Rogan, I'm going to be real pissed, and I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about with whoever I invite on my show. End of. Simple as.
And let someone else be interesting. In 2026...
You come to the Comedy Con of Austin talking about aliens, and you bring no proof?
He didn't ask Lazar a single question about alien technology that he actually let him finish answering before launching into his own riff about chemicals in the water or the collapse of Western civilization.
Because that's real. That's happening. There are chemicals in the water, there are seed oils in my skin, and there are microplastics in my fucking balls. But the day an alien comes down and spreads my cheeks wide open and fucking probes my shit, maybe, just maybe, will I start to listen to Bob Lazar. But until then, GG, on to the next.